A mechanical tear made its way down her cheek, only to be blown onto the concrete rooftop of the building. Lupus? She pondered the sight of the stranger, who had vanished faster than a ghost in a storm. She could have sworn it was him, but then again, it may have been another abomination lurking in the midst of the upper floors of the building. Serenity placed her battle rifle upon a brown wooden table, its structure rotting away. As the skies turned dark onyx green, Serenity's system pinged, and her HUD flashed with several crimson warning signs. Warning, heavy acidic rain approaching, seek shelter. A heavy sigh escaped through her soft lips as a profound sense of isolation settled over her, for she found herself entirely alone. This solitude intensified her internal conflict, while her enhanced, mechanical nature enabled her survival among the undead. It simultaneously left her emotionally detached, unable to connect meaningfully with any living being in the infested city of Hamilton. The time was 21:45, while the acidic rain thundered down with no mercy and hissed upon the stone buildings like ice on hot steel. Serenity was now inside a broken-down coffee shop that hadn't suffered the fate of various other buildings filled with black mold, while sitting in a wooden chair that somehow survived the blast and chemical biotoxins of Project Nexus. I would love to see your smile again, Lupus, and that long, thick, red, fiery hair surrounding your cheeks. I'm starting to remember you and that time we were at the cliffs. The starlight was so bright, Serenity paused as tears flowed down her golden eyes and soft cheeks. While resting her hands upon her knees, she felt the titanium bones in her body and the thin wires that shifted in her robotic feet, meant to replicate the human anatomy with military-engineered advanced software. Thunder clouds above were relentless to the crimson grace of the past. As her tears continued to roll down her eyes like the soft ballad once played on the broken piano that stood in the corner of the shop, she found herself questioning the very fabric of her memory and identity. If only I could remember what happened to the world, she thought, realizing that her fading recollections were intricately entwined with her sense of self. The absence of humanity around her deepened this uncertainty, leaving her adrift and increasingly unsure of her own place and purpose, as she lost her sense of humankind's track of time. Due to her enhanced stamina, she wasn't fatigued in the slightest even after a battle with the flock of gargoyles previously. However, the psychological strain weighed heavily on her mind, manifesting as a persistent ache that lingered even as she wiped the tears from her eyes. Each breath deepened her sense of isolation, and her thoughts grew increasingly clouded by doubt and longing for connection. A strong gust of wind, with an aroma of death, permeated the room. Her cybernetic anatomy numbed the smell of decay, and she stood up and decided to search the coffee shop with desperation for any memory related to humankind. From her search, she would find a bookshelf lightly brushed with black mold. Her system pinged lightly, giving a green alert in her HUD. She picked up a leaflet, then dusted it off with her hand, leaving a musty black residue on her skin. The Bermuda bus schedule in the year 2026. As she opened the leaflet, she noticed the routes linked to each parish and the numbers that correlated with them. Serenity would take note, however, she felt that she was being watched from afar, although her system didn't recognize any threat. While noticing a picture of a kiskadi on the cover, Serenity questioned whether the species was monstrophyte. However, as her artificial intelligence went deeper into the specifics of the anatomy, she heard the ghastly cries of gargoyles close by, which pinged on her HUD. Gargoyles close by, stay cautious. Serenity readied her battle rifle, then walked out of the tattered coffee shop. From her standpoint, she could see a flock of gargoyles lying dead on the ground with their limbs severed from their bodies, as black blood oozed out upon the fractured road. Her system went into overdrive trying to deduce what creature could have caused such a gory sight through the means of a vicious battle. Suddenly, she felt a blow to the back of her head, which caused her to fall forward slightly and lose a portion of her balance. However, as she turned with her battle rifle ready to shoot and kill her assailant, she paused and saw them. A heavy silence fell over the fractured road, broken only by the distant shrieks of the remaining gargoyles that had fled and perched upon a tall building lost to the consequences of war. Serenity's HUD flickered, trying to reconcile the lack of initial proximity warning with the physical force she had just received. Their long, crimson hair moved in the wind, standing out sharply against the dark blood covering the road. As Serenity tried to identify the figure using her system, her HUD showed no presence, but she could still make out their features. A face marked by both familiarity and sorrow, red wolf ears on their head, and golden eyes filled with pain. The red metallic claws on their hands looked dangerous and non-human, creating a sense of both recognition and fear. Softly, she murmured, "Lupus?" "Don't say my name," they said, their voice echoing with such high frequency that it vibrated a nearby stop sign, making the metal hum with a violent, unsettling resonance. Serenity could hear the paranoia behind Lupus's words, and yet the only memory she had of him was at the cliffs of St. David's. She tried to remember further, however, she inwardly heard a heavy ping from the system, security protocol. It confused her, and still she thought, why would a memory trigger a system fallout? The realization sent a shiver through her titanium spine deeper than the ghostly wind. Serenity's cybernetics were actively treating that specific thought as a threat, along with the memory of them at the cliffs of St. David's. Data corrupted, her HUD suddenly flashed in a violent, warning red. Memory sector quarantined by high-level command. May God be with the king, Serenity thought with skepticism. As she stared at Lupus, a profound turmoil surged within her, the pieces of her mind began to fragment, consumed by confusion and fear. The network was not only failing to register Lupus, but actively erasing him from her memory, intensifying her sense of loss and inner conflict. Torn between her ingrained allegiance to the systematic grid and her desperate yearning to recall the truth, Serenity felt herself transforming into a weapon deprived of her own history and agency. High Command. Did they lock it? Serenity whispered in confusion, looking down at her battle rifle, as she gripped the weapon loosely. Lupus, they blocked my own mind from remembering you. What happened at St. David's? Tell me. Please. As he stepped forward, his crimson hair fell to the center of his back like the peaking moon. When the starlight fell, it would drink the red of his hair like a maniacal vampire. Lupus stopped in front of Serenity, casting a towering translucent shadow upon her as the ambience drifted into the beginning of twilight. No, I don't know you, but you seem to be one of those gals that lurk about at the regiment, Lupus spoke with a heavy voice, then he would question, what are you? And why are your eyes golden like mine? What do you mean? I've always been this way. Serenity said. At that moment, her system glitched again, distorting her vision with a flicker reminiscent of television static. This brief malfunction triggered another surge of memories within her, but unlike before, her recollection did not lead to the cliffs of St. David's. Instead, what surfaced was the vivid image of herself lying on a metal table, surrounded by the harsh sounds of drills and the persistent, ominous beeps of a machine. At the same time, numerous unfamiliar hands moved over her body. While searching her for any other threats besides her battle rifle now held loosely in her hands, his wolf instincts ushered a menacing thought into his head, kill or be killed.